Lao Tzu once said, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you are heading. Keep this in mind as we discuss today China-Australia tensions and how much Australia is paying the price. My name is Dr. David Oualaalou.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict. Well, first, we want to thank you for your support of our videos, and also we invite you, if you like our videos, to subscribe to the Patreon. We have the link at the bottom of the description. As a matter of fact, Ross, there are already some that have already subscribed, and we want to express our thanks to you. So, back to the topic.
If you'll recall, and I know you do, several months ago we did a program on specifically the China-Australia relationship. And at that time we predicted it was going to get a lot worse. Guess what? It has. Right now we're seeing 5 major segments of the Australian economy that have essentially been shut down because China said enough is enough. As much as no import at all to 250% import tax. What do you make of all this, David?
Well, that's correct, Ross. The video you're referring to, just for you to know, the video we did about China-Australia tensions was back in January, I believe, the beginning of the year. So, and back then, we did mention that this tension is going to escalate. It's because it was unusual, given the long business or economic history between China and Australia, for them to get into this tit for tat for no reason, that China was like perplexed as to why Australia is behaving that way. So,
right.
So back then we did say, that, yeah, there is possibility this is going to hit the economic sector.
Well, the possibility came into a reality.
Indeed.
And it's here right now. And segments of the Australian economy are tragically hurt.
That is correct. Well, just for you to know, the key sectors that the Australian economy is now suffering from. As a matter of fact, it's almost like a slow death of the Australian economy. We're talking about wine, barley, meat, lobster,
and cotton.
So those are key sectors within the economy that the entirety of the Australian economy depend on the Chinese market.
Exactly. So, and it's just been shut down.
That's correct, because what China ended up doing, it's imposing tariffs. In the case of wine, I remember, because I did research this one, and I know you did too on your end, Ross, and what we found is that in the wine industry, China has imposed 212%.
That essentially shut it down completely.
Basically, yeah, because it was one guy that owns the, it's called Seabrook Winery. He has about 60,000 bottles in storage.
Sitting in a warehouse, which he's paying for.
That's correct. So,
David, how did this come about? I mean, China and Australia are close neighbors.
That's
and
correct.
They seem to be having a great business relationship. What happened?
Well, Australia poked the dragon. When sometimes you poke too much, the dragon is going to spew fire and burn you. And this is exactly what happened. There are those within Australia, within the government, that's saying, well, this amounts to economic coercion. I will have to disagree with that, because nobody's forcing China to trade with Australia.
Right.
You know, now Australia is going to take the case to the World Trade Organization, but China can say, oh, sure, we want to ensure that the products you're sending us are safe. You take the example of lobster, for example.
Right.
They're saying that it's contaminated. Well, turns out to be that the investigators inside Australia, did find that some of the lobsters in the north, not in the south, in the north, are contaminated. And usually the merchants of the fishermen in the south, their lobster is good, but China banned everything. And now for the lobster, because I remember looking at the stats for that, usually they used to sell it to Australia for about $85 a kilo. Now it goes for 25.
The financial loss of that is staggering.
It is. I just don't see them recovering from that. Knowing how much lobster it uses in its domestic market.
You know, it also, with that much wine and that much lobster, it tells you that there are certain parts of China that are doing economically remarkably well to have these luxury items.
That's correct. You know, you take also the look at the barley.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what was devastating for Australia now is that the farmers who planted barley, the decision from China not to allow barley came right after the farmers in Australia planted for the year, for the crop. It was too late to do anything, so it's a loss for them.
And some of the predictions are a number of these farms are going to go into bankruptcy.
There's no other option. And it was for the stupidity of the central government in Canberra for them. They could have just turned it down and resolved this issue. Now, is the average Australian is suffering, especially
Right.
the farmers.
You know, we have to ask ourselves, well, what did the Australian government do to inspire this?
Wow, that's gonna get into some we have some information to share with you. Those are some leaked information to the point I had to make sure they're accurate. So there are four key points that we want you to know. One of them has to do with the Australian ban in Huawei from building the 5G
program.
network
Yeah.
altogether. And guess what? They came at the request of whom?
The United States
The
government.
United States. So,
Okay.
second one has to do with Australian foreign interference into the internal matters of
You don't mean Hong Kong. You don't mean Taiwan.
Yeah, Shenzhen.
And Ginseng as
Yeah,
well.
and it is exactly, that's what it is. Third one has to do with the Australian inquiry into the investigation of the pandemic. I mean, why all of a sudden Australia is pushing the international community to investigate China? It's like,
As if that isn't going on
Anywhere else.
And it's being demanded everywhere, as if we're going to find something useful.
You're absolutely correct. And the last one has to do with Australia's non-stop interference in China's Shenzhen province by stating that these are human abuses and all that stuff. Well, I found it ironic, Ross, that Australia is getting involved into internal matters of China.
Exactly. And what we don't see is China getting involved in the internal matters of Australia. Now, you have an international background in international security, and you've got some special information here.
That is correct, Ross. What you're referring to here is just to give you an example of how much China has refrained from criticizing Australia regarding its domestic affairs. This one has to do with the war crimes that Australian military have committed in Afghanistan. And that the time frame for that goes between 2005 and 2016. I was in Afghanistan at that time, between 2005 and 2010. And the crimes amounted to this. There were about 39 deaths in Afghanistan. 2 of those 39 were 14-year-olds that some members of the SAS, which is the special op for Australia, have slit their throat. 14-year-olds. And what made the matter even worse is that those special ops, the Australian one, have placed weapons near the dead bodies to justify the killing, which amount to war crime. As a matter of fact, there is currently a report that's been released inside Australia for investigation conducted by a lieutenant general in the military, in which he did convict 19 out of 25 of those members of the SAS.
Oh, wow.
So our point is not about this. Our point is, while this made the news, even though it wasn't covered aggressively, China refrained from criticizing Australia because to China was like, that's an internal matter for Australia to
Right.
resolve.
And China's position is, leave us alone for our own internal matters.
Exactly, and this is why, so China was almost like fed up with this, and they decided, okay, if you are depending on our market for economic, we're gonna just shut it down. And now Australians are paying the price. No matter what you hear, there are some say, well, we're not gonna bow to the Chinese. Nobody's asking you to bow to the Chinese. It's a reality that now you're gonna have to deal with.
And the invitation is, rethink the position.
Yeah.
It's not like backing down or losing national face. It isn't that at all.
Nor it is a sign of weakness.
No.
No, no. And this is exactly what some Australians inside the country, and I've been following what's going on internally, that there are some saying the government need to tone it down
Right.
because they are just following blindly, Australians that is, and for their own economic goods. And now they are paying the price for all that.
Yes.
A major one. And this also is sending a message to others.
Oh boy, is it. So here's the conclusion. What we see is the government had poked the dragon. The Chinese were angry about it and put Australia on notice and then did severe economic sanctions. But this wasn't just to tell the Chinese telling Australians, it's China telling the world.
As a matter of fact, Ross, South Korea just
Rethought their program.
exactly regarding this. And the bottom line to what you just said is, if you want to make China the enemy, China will become the enemy.
Exactly. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
And as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.